Good evening from Washington. I'm Larry O'Connor, and as of now, we still don't actually have a Speaker of the House of Representatives, which means, of course, Congress can't get to work. Now, they had multiple votes today, and just like yesterday, there were 20 holdouts that refused to throw their support to Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy refused to withdraw his name from consideration. And so we're still at the same deadlock. Now, there seemed to be some sort of coalition within those 20 holdout Republicans. They now want Representative Byron Donalds, a good, fine Republican from the state of Florida, potentially to be the person that could rally support beyond just the 20 who have already committed to not voting for Kevin McCarthy. We'll see if that gets any traction. They're scheduled to reconvene sometime this evening, but it's important to talk about what's really happening here, and most importantly, what's not really happening here. What's not happening is chaos. Now, we're told by the mainstream media, by cable news, by professional journalists, by Democrats, by never Trumpers, we're told that this is chaos. I mean, just look at this photograph our friend Chris DeGaulle from the Morning Answer in Philadelphia gave us. CEO of Fox News, Speaker, chaos consumes day one of new Congress. Consumes. Chaos in Congress as House GOP breaks down over Speaker vote. And of course, MSNBC with the pithiest of all, chaos at the Capitol. You know, when they all write from the same page and they all sing from the same choir book and they all play from the same playbook, you should be skeptical. If they're all saying it's chaos, it probably isn't. I mean, is the sky falling? Are planes no longer able to take off? Is your indoor plumbing still working? I mean, what did you want the Congress to do in the last 48 hours that they haven't been able to get done? And how has it directly affected your life? Exactly. This isn't chaotic. It's messy. It's ugly. It's called the democratic process. Have you taken a look at some of those countries in Europe or maybe even Israel with their multi-party parliamentary systems? You want to talk about chaos. You talk about wheeling and dealing. You want to talk about bargaining to try to get to a majority so you can have control of the government. I mean, thank God we have a two-party system and there's just 20 holdouts from within that party. I asked Benjamin Netanyahu about chaos on the floor of a legislative body. He'll give you a long story about what he's had to endure. This isn't chaos. And this also, honestly, in the long run, isn't a really big problem. I mean, listen, whoever is Speaker of the House matters a lot to those 420 some odd Republican members of Congress. But ultimately, does it really make a huge difference to you? I mean, this House of Representatives can't actually do anything. They can't actually pass anything. They will not actually be able to make any laws unless they get Democrats to help them out. Forget about the 20 holdouts in the Republican Party. They'll need Democrats in the Senate and they'll need the president, a Democrat, to help them if they actually want to get anything passed. This House of Representatives, whoever leads it, they're not going to be focused on passing legislation. Their whole job is to stop things from happening. Their whole job is to stop Biden's agenda. The whole job is to stop the spending that Biden and Schumer and Pelosi have demanded for the last 2 years. That's all. And really, it doesn't matter who the speaker is if all you're doing is stopping things. The other thing the House of Representatives is going to do is investigations. And if you're like me, you want those investigations to start right now. In fact, if you're like me, the biggest frustration here is that while they're waiting to try to figure out who the House Speaker is, Jim Jordan and James Comer have not been able to convene their committees and get to the business of investigating the FBI, Hunter Biden, and COVID-19, and China, and Anthony Fauci, and the Afghanistan pullout, and all of the things that have been ignored and neglected for the last 2 years by Nancy Pelosi's House of Representatives. And that's why it's critically important to listen to what Jim Jordan had to say yesterday. Yeah, Jim Jordan, somebody who these 20 Republicans all embraced and said, you should be our speaker. And Jim Jordan said, no, I want to investigate Joe Biden. I don't want to be the speaker. He wants Kevin McCarthy to be the speaker. So instead of dwelling on the fake banner of chaos that the media tries to throw at this thing, and instead of wringing our hands and saying, well, this Congress can't get anything done because they can't get a speaker, when in reality, they can't get a whole lot done other than congressional investigations because of the numbers they're working with and because of our divided government, let's focus a little bit about some of the myths that you might be seeing out there. One of them that's being floated is that Some Democrats are open to a unity candidate. If the Republicans can come up with a candidate the Democrats will approve of, they'll come and join them halfway and vote for them so you can have a Speaker of the House. That's not going to happen. Any Republican who is sitting there in the House of Representatives and thinking, gee, the only way we can get to work here is if we can find a Republican that Democrats approve of. They should be impeached. They should be thrown out of office. First of all, Democrats can't approve of any Republicans. Just listen to what they call us on a regular basis. And just think for yourself for a moment. If the Democrats were in the majority right now, do you think they'd be considering a unity candidate with the Republicans? Do you think that's something Democrats would ever do? Of course not. We also hear calls for Kevin McCarthy to not be considered Speaker because he wants the job too much. We should get somebody who doesn't want the job. That proves they'd be great at it. It's like a King Solomon notion from the Old Testament. I get the spirit behind it, but you know what? We've been down that road before. Paul Ryan was reluctant to be the Speaker. He said multiple times he didn't want it. He was dragged kicking and screaming to grab that gavel and go into the Speaker's office. But we were told he was the only one who could bring Republicans together. He was the only one who could unify. He's the only one who could speak for hardcore conservatives and also mainstream establishment, and everyone likes him. How'd that work out? Now, I'm fine with a candidate who wants to be Speaker, especially considering what the job's going to look like. In fact, the fact that Kevin McCarthy has sort of hung in there through all of this, through all of the fighting, through all the name calling, through all the finger pointing, through all the humiliation, it's actually kind of a sign of leadership. Listen, this is going to work itself out. Kevin McCarthy is just going to have to make some more tough choices, and that's what leaders have to do. Oh, one more comment about leadership. President Donald Trump endorsed Kevin McCarthy many, many weeks ago. And this morning, he tried to rally these 20 Republicans, majority of whom are aligned very closely with the former president, tried to rally them to drop this fight and vote for Kevin McCarthy. Here's what he said. Vote for Kevin, close the deal, take the victory. Don't turn a great triumph into a giant, embarrassing defeat. It's time to celebrate. You deserve it. Kevin McCarthy will do a good job and maybe even a great job. Just watch. He was speaking directly to those 20 holdouts. That was this morning before they went into session today. And the 20 holdouts, they ignored him. He had absolutely no influence on them. They openly defied President Trump's wishes. What does that say exactly? I mean, we're told that Donald Trump is the most feared Republican in America, that Republicans dare not criticize him or speak ill of him. And if you go against him, that's the end of your political career. We're told that, of course, by never Trump Republicans and by Democrats and by journalists and professional media pundits who usually don't know what they're talking about when it comes to Donald Trump. So if Donald Trump told all of these 20 Republicans to drop the fight, vote for Kevin McCarthy, and they ignored him, what does this tell us about Donald Trump's influence going forward in the Republican Party as he tries to be the nominee for next year? Something to think about. In the meantime, the events will continue to develop in the House of Representatives, and maybe by the end of the night we'll have a speaker, or maybe tomorrow, or maybe not. In the long run, raise your kids right. Give them a kiss, say your prayers, make sure they don't have any CRT or gender ideology in their 6th grade classes, and get on with your day. More to come on O'Connor Tonight.